Okay, we're good to go. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on the 7 mansion worlds, and we're in section 3, the first mansion world. Last time we talked about the finality world and the nursery world. That was kind of interesting. So we'll start on the first mansion world today. Let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might study your wonderful revelation and share it with others. We thank you for the ability to be able to do this in this day and age. And we pray that you'll watch over this meeting and this group and open our hearts and minds that we might benefit and we might share this with others. We thank you in your son's name, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Gary. Hello,
evening,
everyone.
Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Hey,
Hey, Gary.
All right, let's start on number 3. Dear, you want to start us up? For me, please.
3, the first mansion world. On the mansion worlds, the resurrected mortal survivors resume their lives just where they left off when overtaken by death. When you go from Urantia to the first mansion world, you will notice considerable change. But if you had come from a more normal and progressive sphere of time, you would hardly notice a difference, except for the fact that you were in possession of a different body. The tabernacle of flesh and blood has been left behind on the world of nativity.
Okay, so except for leaving your body behind and getting a brand new one, brand spanking new one, everything would be just the same, right?
It's pretty serious.
Yeah. So once we die, we get all new duds, as they say, right? All right. There's also, it says here that you will notice considerable change when we get to the first mansion world. But if our world was a more progressive world, more spiritual world, it would be very little. We'd have very little to take notice of, very little differences. But other than the fact we left our physical bodies behind, and that's a big one for humans, isn't it? All right, let's go down to this first slide tonight. And I'll read this. From the time of leaving the material world until you are constituted a first stage spirit on Salvington, you will undergo just 570 separate and ascending Urantia changes. 8 of these occur in the system, 21 in the constellation. 71 in the constellation, and 491 during your sojourn on the spheres of Salvington. So you're going to get, huh?
Where are you at?
I'm on the slide on the screen.
I see a picture.
Yeah, it's just writing down at the bottom of it. Very tiny writing. That's why I read them, because most people can't see them. You see it on your screen?
Okay, I don't see it, so that's maybe why I'm confused.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So we have 500 separate different changes from worlds to world. And the first 8 occur in the system. And that's what this picture is about right here, right? As we go from mansion world number 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and 6 and to 7, each time we graduate from that world, we get tweaked a little bit, okay? And we get a brand new tweaked body for the next level, okay? And why would that be, if you think about it? Especially on the mansion worlds, because the mansion worlds, what are we doing? We're trying to get rid of our barbaric habits, right? Our barbarism. And so as we get rid of our barbarism, are you going to teach the class tonight, sweetie? See my teacher?
Oh, gee whiz, a cat spot. Oh,
That's
no.
just what you wanted to see. Why don't you at least look into the camera? Thanks. Yes, you're going to go see her now. Okay, so you get a new tweaked body on each one of these levels because you're getting rid of the barbarianism in yourself and you're becoming more and more spiritual. Okay? All right. This one's really small. You will not acquire You not, blah, blah, blah. Really, you will not acquire new foreign languages immediately, automatically. You will learn a language over there much as you do down here. And these brilliant beings will be your language teachers. The first study on the mansion worlds will be the tongue of Satania, and then the language of Nebadon. And while you are mastering these new tongues, the Urantia companions will be your efficient interpreters and patient translators. You will never encounter a visitor on any of these worlds, but that some one of these Urantia companions will be able to officiate as interpreter for you. And that's what these pictures are about. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Rodney, would you take the next one for us?
Sure. The very center of all activities on the first mansion world is the resurrection hall, the enormous temple of personality assembly. This gigantic structure consists of the central rendezvous of the seraphic destiny guardians, the thought adjusters, and the archangels of the resurrection. The life carriers also function with these celestial beings in the resurrection of the dead.
Okay, so we talked about this before, how that the seraphic destiny guardians, right? That's your seraphim, the two seraphim will be there with you, right? There's also the thought adjuster, which brings back your personality, right? The seraphim bring back your memory patterns, and the archangel of the resurrection, which we don't talk about a whole lot, but remember we were talking about how the archangel of the resurrection is in charge of a duplicate of all your mental patterns, right? So why is the archangel of the resurrection there? Because if for some reason your seraphim default in bringing your memory patterns back, the archangel of the resurrection can instill them back in you. Okay, because it's got a copy of everything. Okay, and this is a little picture of the Mansion World number 1. And this is the same paragraph that I just read underneath it here. All right. Oh, let's see here. And they mention here also the life carriers also function in the celestial beings in the resurrection of the dead. I guess since you get a new body, the life carriers has to be there to make sure that you're instilled properly. All right. All right, let's read this little paragraph. The very center of all activities on the first mansion world is the resurrection hall, the enormous temple of personality assembly. The gigantic structure consists of the central rendezvous of the seraphic destiny guardians, the thought adjusters, and the archangels of the resurrections. And then it says the life carriers also function in these two. So you can see these halls, there's multiple people that can be revived at a time. All right, let's go on to the next one. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. The mortal mind transcripts and the active creature memory patterns as transformed from the material levels to the spiritual are the individual possession of the detached thought adjusters. These spiritized factors of mind, memory, and creature personality are forever a part of such adjusters. The creature mind matrix and the passive potentials of identity are present in the Urantia soul, entrusted to the keeping of the seraphic destiny guardians. And it is the reuniting of the Urantia soul, trust of the seraphim, and the spirit mind trust of the adjuster that reassembles creature personality and constitutes resurrection of a sleeping survivor.
Okay. So the seraphim has your soul trust, right? And the thought adjuster owns your mind, memory, and your personality, right? Which the mind memory stuff is entrusted to the angel of the resurrection also, right? So there's no way they can't put you back together once they put you in this new body, right? But this is how they do it. And that constitutes the resurrection of someone that's a sleeping survivor that's died and is waiting to be resurrected. Now, we know from previous studies that there's at least 2 different ways to be resurrected, right? There's actually 3, but there's 2 of them we're talking about is going to sleep when you die, and then on a millennial resurrection, you will be resurrected in mass. And that's if you don't make it to the 3rd psychic circle, right? But if you make it to the 3rd psychic circle, on the 3rd day, you will be awakened on the mansion worlds, and everything will be put back together for you. Now, what's the 3rd way you can leave the planet? Is you confuse, right? You confuse with your adjuster, and that's another way. All right.
How's that?
If you fuse with your adjuster in this
Okay.
lifetime, like Elijah or Enoch, right?
Question.
Yeah.
Okay. What about people that die after having Alzheimer's?
Doesn't matter, because
the-
your
because when the-
memory patterns will be pre-Alzheimer's, right?
Oh,
When
they'll
your
be
mind's,
pre-Alzheimer's.
yeah,
Okay.
when your mind stops functioning properly, what happens? Then all the memories up to that point are saved. And then after Alzheimer, you probably are not considered a fully sanctioned being anymore, because you've already really passed the test of this life and you're just waiting to die, right?
Mm,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
So I have a
Alright.
question too.
Yeah, Rodney.
Are our souls considered to be Urantia?
That's a good question, Rodney. I would say yes and no, because your soul's also spiritual, right? It eventually grows into a spiritual being. So if you think about it, they talk about it being the embryonic portion of your soul is the embryo of your real person. So you could think of it as part Urantia, but it grows into a spiritual being, so it's also part spiritual, right?
Question.
It was that sentence, reuniting of the Urantia soul trust.
Urantia
And it
soul
just got
trust.
me thinking.
Yeah, because the guardian angels are entrusted, their seraphic destiny, guardian angels are entrusted with your soul. And that is also what, if the archangel deems necessary, can remove from the seraphic guardian, right? If that guardian angel defaults, the archangel can remove that trust and keep it for themselves until you're resurrected. So it's insurance that you are put back together properly, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Did you have a question, Bill, too?
Yeah, but I was thinking it has escaped me for a minute. So when it
Okay.
comes back, I'll let you know.
Okay. You're not one of those Alzheimer's
Speaking
patients.
of
are you?
Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's move on. Jane, did you just read? Okay, Bill, would you read the next one, please?
Okay. The mortal mind,
No, if a transitory
Oh.
personality.
if a transitory personality of mortal origin should ever be thus reassembled, the spirit elements of the non-surviving mortal creature would forever continue as an integral part of the individual experience endowment of the one-time indwelling adjuster. Now, that reminded me of my question.
Mhm.
Okay, the spirit element. The Bible says in more than one place that we are known by God before our parts were ever made.
Yeah, that would be with the thought adjuster.
Okay, and so before, since we're known by God, does that mean that we were spirit entities before we became inserted into this bodies?
No, no. Our thought adjuster was. The
Our
thought
thought
adjuster, your thought adjuster existed before you did.
Mm-hmm.
And if that what they're talking about here is if someone is not reassembled because they failed to survive, all those elements of experience of that being is still property of the thought adjuster. So when that thought adjuster is reassigned to a new individual, all that experience still goes with the thought adjuster, and the new individual benefits from that experience. All right.
Okay.
So, when you say God knew us before we were born, that's because God knows the thought adjuster. The thought adjuster is part of God the Father, right?
Well, God, it says in the book though that God gives us our personalities.
He does.
Okay, so that means that if He gives us our personalities, that means He knew us by our personalities before the bodies came to be.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and so
and it's only God
Jesus,
that can bestow that personality on humans.
right? It's like the Annunciation to Mary. Then that we are known before we get put into this body, and our bodies, we are known from conception.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what I was thinking of. So,
Oh, okay.
thank you.
Uh-huh. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Yes.
Okay,
Something here-
Western University, I'm on the way.
Something here that I don't understand. I'll start
Okay.
reading it.
No, go ahead and ask a question if you want to.
Well, it's in this
Please.
paragraph.
Oh, it's in this paragraph. Okay.
From the temple of new life, there extend 7 radial wings, the resurrection halls of the mortal races. Each of these structures is devoted to the assembly of one of the 7 races of time. What are 7 races of time?
They're talking about the original 7 races, the colored races. That's what they're
Okay,
talking
so
about.
each of these structures is devoted to the assembly of one of the 7 races.
Yeah,
that
and
we've
this
already known
picture
about.
down here, let me bring it up before you read that, Mary. And here is the 7 races, right? The red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. And then
Yes.
the other one, he's got a question mark because he was not sure what the 7th was, right? And the 7th was the race of Adam and Eve, right?
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
what
The violet rays.
the violet race. That's correct. All right.
Okay.
That's what the 7
There
races are.
are 100,000 personal resurrection chambers in each of these 7 wings, terminating in the circular class assembly halls, which serve as the awakening chambers for as many as 1 million individuals. These halls are surrounded by the personality assembly chambers of the blended races of the normal post-Adamic worlds, regardless of the technique which may be employed on the individual worlds of time in connection with the special or dispensational resurrections, the real and conscious reassembly of actual and complete personality, takes place in the resurrection halls of Mansonia, number 1. Throughout all eternity, you will recall the profound memory impressions of your first witnessing of these resurrection mornings.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in this right from the start. Okay. Notice that there's 7 races here, right? What about people, and they do all do this, when people start intermixing races, right? I guess you could, if you were a red man and you were mixed with an orange man, you could wake up in either one, right?
These
Yeah.
halls are surrounded by the personality assembly chambers of the blended races.
That's right. The
Mhm.
blended
So-
races.
There are rooms for the blended races also.
That's right. That's
It could
right.
get complicated.
It can get real complicated. That's why I wanted to bring that up. So don't think you're going to, just because your heredity is a black man or a Chinese or whatever, that you will definitely wake up on that color races. You see what I'm saying? Because you are probably the result of blending. Ever since Adam and Eve, human beings have been blending, right? And they will continue to do so until we're all blended into one master race. That's what it says here, okay? All right, let's read this little picture underneath this one. There are 100,000 personal chambers, resurrection chambers, okay? In each of these 7 wings, right? So that's 700,000 right there. All right. These, which serve as awakening chamber for as many as 1 million individuals. These halls are surrounded by personality assembly chambers of the blended races of the normal post-Adamic worlds, and that's almost all of them. All right. And then we go down here and we have a picture of an example, a resurrection hall of the blue race. Now, you see this picture? It looks blue, but down in the right-hand corner, what does it have? It has green, doesn't it? Okay. The reason he did that is to show that in each one of these, there is blended races also. And then there is the resurrection hall for the mixed races and the temple for the Urantia companion. Okay. And here's the temple of the new life they're going to talk about here in a minute. All right. All right. And this is an example of a world number 1. And this is a special resurrection of a 3rd circular and above. Okay. It says, during the transit of surviving mortals from the world of origin to the mansion worlds, whether they experience personality reassembly on the 3rd period or ascend at the time of a group resurrection, the record of personality constitution is faithfully preserved by the archangel on their worlds of special activity. That's our guarantee that your record is your record. Okay. That's why this is in here. Okay. And then it shows the special resurrection of Adam and Eve and their children. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Let's see here. Diane, I think you're up again.
From the resurrection halls, you proceed to the Melchizedek sector, where you are assigned permanent residence. Then you enter upon 10 days of personal liberty. You are free to explore the immediate vicinity of your new home and to familiarize yourself with the program which lies immediately ahead. You also have time to gratify your desire to consult the registry and call upon your loved ones and other earth friends who may have preceded you to these worlds. At the end of your 10-day period of leisure, you begin the 2nd step in the paradise journey, for the mansion worlds are actual training spheres, not merely detention planets.
How you like that? Not merely detention planets. You like that? In other words, you're not allowed to go on if you're not behaving. You're too barbaric, right? All right. And it also says here that after you've been reawakened, they give you time to call on any friends and family that you desire to call on, you know, while you're getting to know your new surroundings. All right. Let's see here. Rodney, I believe you're up next.
On Mansion World number 1 or another, in case of advanced status, you will resume your intellectual training and spiritual development at the exact level whereon they were interrupted by death. Between the time of planetary death or translation and resurrection on the Mansion World, mortal man gains absolutely nothing aside from experiencing the fact of survival. You begin over there, right where you leave off down here.
Okay, interesting question. It says here, you'll resume your intellectual training and spiritual development at the exact level where they were interrupted by death. I have a question. If you have no interest in your intellectual training or your spiritual development, where did you start? Square one, right? In other words, if you do not do anything to advance yourself in this lifetime, even though you survive, you have to start at the very beginning. You follow me?
Mhm.
They might have a remedial world.
That's what I'm saying, Millie. Probably a goodly portion of the residents on the first mansion world will be in what class? The
Remedial.
class. That's right. And that's why they call these detention planets, right? They do not allow you to go on until you've developed some spiritual cognitive sense. In other words, you have to start to begin to think like a spiritual being. You can't go from being a barbarian running around and killing people and doing all these things and hop on the mansion world and expect to keep doing that there, right? Won't work. Doesn't work that way. All right. So there's a lot of beings that get there, that survive, that have no idea what a spiritual life is about. So they have to start from the beginning, right? Because we know that all that's required is what to survive? Faith. That's right here. Faith. All right. All right. And we're going to find out more about this in this next paragraph. Jane, will you take the next one?
Okay. Almost the entire experience of Mansion World number 1 pertains to deficiency ministry. Survivors arriving on this first of the detention spheres present so many and such varied defects of creature character and deficiencies of mortal experience that the major activities of the realm are occupied with the correction and cure of these manifold legacies of the life in the flesh on the material evolutionary world of time and space.
That pretty much spells it out, doesn't it?
We just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have one question, Roger.
Go ahead, Jane.
Well, we do know that, we are on a spiritual journey, and depending sometimes maybe what experiences we have in life, and also the distractions, and in other words, we could go through periods of being spiritually very connected.
Uh-huh.
And then we could go through a period where we find ourselves spiritually dry,
Right.
looking for God, and a
Mhm.
little bit out of sorts.
Yeah, out of sync with the universe, right?
Yeah, because it could be humans around us, difficulties,
Oh, yeah.
life dealing. So what happens then? Like, because you are not in any fixed grade, so to speak.
No, but they'll take you from the highest level you were,
Oh,
Jane.
very generous.
Yeah, they would
Yeah,
take you
they're
from
very
your
generous.
highest spiritual level, and then try to get rid of the deficiencies in your character that has drawn you back in those periods
Okay,
where you're
that
low.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes
That's
a
why
lot
they
of
call it
sense.
the deficiency ministry, because
Yes.
really what they're trying to do is remove those things which are not spiritual.
Those
right?
tendencies to
Yeah.
influence.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Bill, would you take the next one?
Sure. The sojourn on Mansion World number 1 is designed to develop mortal survivors at least up to the status of the post-Adamic dispensation on the normal evolutionary world. Spiritually, of course, the Mansion World students are far in advance of such a state of mere human development.
Okay,
That reminds me, though, Melchizedek, when he heard that Jesus was going to come here to this planet, he made the emergency declaration that, hey, we got to do something about this place, or else you're going to be, Jesus is going to wipe everything away.
no, that's not true, Bill. He never said that. He said they needed to do something about this world because the concept of God the Father was dying, and they were
Right.
afraid that it would be wiped out before Jesus got here. And so
Yep.
that's what the emergency bestowal was about.
Okay. The wipe out thing, that's the thing that threw me away.
Yeah, no, it was never in a case where they were going to wipe out all the people on the planet or anything like that. They were concerned about the concept of God the Father dying so that when Jesus got here, he would have less to work with than what he did. Right?
Mhm.
That's what they're talking about there. All right.
Okay.
And this paragraph was talking about the post-Adamic dispensation, which would have been right before Melchizedek, right? So they want to bring everyone on Mansion World number 1 at least up to that point, okay, before they start letting anyone graduate from it. All right. Okay. Let's see. Did you read, Bill, or not?
That was me just read.
Okay. Millie, would you take the next one? Let me raise this up a little bit. Okay.
Yes. If you are not to be detained on Mansion World number 1, at the end of 10 days, you will enter the translation sleep and proceed to world number 2. And every 10 days thereafter, you will thus advance until you arrive on the world of your assignment.
So every 10 days, they will reevaluate you until they find the planet that's right for you and your spiritual development. Now,
That's nice. That's nice to know.
yeah, it's nice. But keep in mind that regardless of which one you settle down on, if you end up, let's say, on Mansion World number 4, the previous 3 Mansion Worlds, you still have to go back and serve as instructors and teachers for those who are less fortunate than yourself, right? Because they did not develop these spiritual concepts. So
when do I have to go back?
pretty quick, right after
When
you
they
get there.
send you, Millie.
When they send you, yeah.
Well,
It
one of the
sounds like that's your first mission when you get there. Say if you wake up on Mansion World number 4, you know, after you have your 10 days of freedom, they'll put you on a shuttle and take you back to Mansion World #1, and you start teaching those that don't know anything, right?
Is
Mhm.
that called volunteer work?
It's called volunteer work. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, not all your time is spent like that, but part of your time does, and the other part will be going back to Mansion World #4. I'm just using that example. You'll be going back to the one you're assigned to, where you can continue your training for your benefit, right? So it's for serve and be served. Makes sense?
That's it.
Yes.
That was like somewhere in this book, it says that, you know, that's how we learn what we learn from this book is to teach it to others.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Think I'll get brownies points for all these meetings?
I think so.
I think so.
I hope so.
I think so.
All right, let's keep going on. Diane, I think you're back up again.
The center of the 7 major circles of the first Mansion World administration is occupied by the Temple of the Morantia Companions, the personal guides assigned to ascending mortals. These companions are the offspring of the local universe Mother Spirit, and there are several million of them on the Morantia worlds of Satania. Aside from those assigned as group companions, you will have much to do with the interpreters and translators, the building custodians, and the excursion supervisors. And all of these companions are most cooperative with those who have to do with developing your personality factors of mind and spirit within the Morantia body.
So these are the helper bees for us, right? All right. They'll help us in all of our little things we have to do and make us feel at home right on the first Mansion World, right? All right, Rodney, let's take the second one, the next one.
Okay, as you start out on the first Mansion World, one Morantia companion is assigned to each company of 1,000 ascending mortals. But you will encounter large numbers as you progress through the 7 mansion spheres. These beautiful and versatile beings are
Companionable. There you go.
associates and charming guides. They are free to accompany individuals or selected groups to any of the transition culture spheres, including their satellite worlds. They are the excursion guides and leisure associates of all ascending mortals. They often accompany survivor groups on periodic visits to Jerusalem. And on any day you are there, you can go to the registry sector of the system capital and meet ascending mortals from all 7 of the mansion worlds, since they freely journey back and forth between their residential abodes and the system headquarters.
So you can visit with any being on all 7 mansion worlds on Jerusalem when they're there, right? So if you have friends and family that are well ahead of you, like say they're on Mansion World #2 and they're on Mansion World #6, you can meet them on Jerusalem and visit with them and spend time with them and all that, just like you do here on Earth, right? But you never feel like you're behind, because these Morantia companions leads people in groups to do things like this, right? So they're like a little vacation guides, if you could think of it that way, right? All right, this is an interesting picture here. Notice that all these beings are sitting at little desks. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then there's a Morantia companion in front of the class. All right, and it says down here, to start the first Mansion World, one Morantia companion It is assigned to a company of 1,000 ascending mortals, but you will encounter larger numbers as you progress through the seven-mansion sphere. These beautiful and versatile beings are companionable associates and charming guides. Now think about this for a minute. Why do you think that there are less Morontia companions on the first mansion world and more of them on the other mansion worlds? Think about that for a second. I've given this great thought over the years. You want my opinion is?
What do you
Okay, go-
think?
Go
I
ahead.
think it's because when we first get to the first mansion world, we're not all that spiritual. Okay. So the questions we have and the information we need is not as much as once we start to progress spiritually through the mansion worlds, we're going to encounter more and more things that we need to know more about. So we're going to need more help as we go up through the seven mansion worlds. So as we need more help, more companions will be assigned to us in smaller numbers so we can get more attention. Does that make
So
sense?
the more you know, the more questions you're going to ask.
That's it. The more you know, the more questions you have, right? That need
Plus
to be answered.
also,
Huh?
what about also the fact that is it possible that in the first mansion world, everybody is kind of more disciplined, self-disciplined, because is there still a sense of uncertainty?
Yeah, you're on
Yeah.
trial, sort of. You know,
On
you're-
trial, best
yeah.
behavior, don't know
Yeah.
what's going on really.
Right. Mhm.
And, so they're more quiet maybe.
That may be the case. You know, well, think about it this way, Jane. When you go from being a pretty barbaric person, if you're out rioting the streets, killing people and doing that sort of thing, when you get to a place where that's not allowed anymore and it's not going on, it'll be pretty shocking to you, wouldn't it?
It would be, and you have a whole new body to
A
deal
whole
with.
new body. Yeah, yeah.
You
it's-
see things differently.
Mhm.
I don't think there is a bar available.
Yeah. No, I
brawl
doubt
it.
that. Yeah. Yeah, probably not any cocktails to go get snockered, as they say, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the second mansion world. You see, we made it through a whole mansion world tonight, right? All right, let's see who's up now. I think Rodney is back up.
Okay. 4, the second mansion world. It is on this sphere that you are more fully inducted into the Morontia life. The groupings of the Morontia life begin to take form. Working groups and social organizations start to function. Communities take on formal proportions, and the advancing mortals inaugurate new social orders and governmental arrangements.
Okay, so by the time you get to the second mansion world, it says you're more fully inducted into the Mansonia life, right? So by the time you get to the second mansion world, you kind of settled down a little bit, haven't you? Right? And you kind of said, well, this is the program and this is the way I gotta act, right? So by the second one, we work in groups together better. We work in social organizations better. They start to function better. And so we actually take on things like new social orders and government arrangements. And we do this voluntarily, right? Because we've come up from the first mansion world. So we've grown, right? This is all about growth. All right. Jane, will you take the next one, please?
Okay. Spirit-fused survivors occupy dimension worlds in common with the adjuster-fused ascending mortals. While the various orders of celestial life differ, They are all friendly and fraternal. In all the worlds of ascension, you will find nothing comparable to human intolerance and the discriminations of inconsiderate caste system.
So all these,
Systems.
yeah, all these problems we have on this world will all be gone, won't they? Right?
Everybody's equal.
Everybody's equal. Everybody's friendly. There is no discrimination because of your race, color, whether you're a green person or a white person or a little green man, a little gray guy, whatever. It doesn't matter, right?
Those are the emotions that we have to get rid of.
That's
We're
right.
not talking about just not running around shooting people. We're talking about
Yeah,
Correct. Yes.
anger and greed and hatred and bigotry and jealousy and yeah, all these emotions that we have that don't belong here.
that's right. That's
Mhm.
right, Millie.
Yeah.
And by the time we hit the second mansion world, most of these should be under control, shouldn't they?
I
Right?
would hope. I
Yeah.
work on it. I work on it in this plane.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
I would
Okay.
hope so. I would hope that they would not let you off of the first mansion world until you got rid of all of that racism stuff.
Yeah, I would think so, Bill. I don't think you ever leave the first one until you do. Maybe that's why
Right.
there's so many people on the first mansion world.
Yeah. It's very crammed.
Very crowded, right?
Mhm.
The,
I was
the
hearing
first
something that
mansion
I was
worlds, the mansions themselves may be little bitty apartments, you know,
right.
for space.
But I was hearing something this morning that said that even people that say we're all together on this are racist.
Oh, I know. It's
It's
You know,
crazy.
it makes, if you watch the TV, it makes you nuts.
That's
This
right.
is all there is to it. And, we just stopped watching it. If I don't watch the news, I don't get mad and upset, so I don't watch it anymore.
Mhm.
That's the way I look at it. If it's, and I know that sounds awful to y'all, but it's not, if it's not spiritual, I do not want it in my life. That's the way I feel about it, because all this garbage that goes on is not important to our
No.
survival. It's
That's
not.
right.
It's just not. Okay, let's look at this little picture for a second. The reason I wanted to point something out on this one, it shows us here that not only the adjuster fused mortals, the mortals that will fuse with their adjusters, but also the spirit fused mortals will also be on these worlds with us. Okay, and they will progress right along with us. All right, and they're all friendly. Everybody's friendly. Okay, Bill, would you take the next?
Sure. As you ascend the mansion worlds one by one, they become more crowded with the Urantia activities of advancing survivors. As you go forward, you will recognize more and more of the Jerusalem features added to the mansion world. The Sea of Glass makes its appearance on the second Mansonia.
You remember in the book of Revelation, they talk about the Sea of Glass? That is actually what John saw on the second mansion world. Okay, the Sea of Glass. All right, so as we go along, as we progress through these mansion worlds, we'll see more and more things from our visits to Jerusalem that will show up on these higher worlds.
Yeah, that's why I say the Bible is a book of clues leading to this book.
That's right. Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. Yeah, yes, I'm on. The newly developed and suitably adjusted Urantia body is acquired at the time of each advance from one mansion world to another. You go to sleep with the seraphic transport and you awake with a new but undeveloped body in the resurrection halls, much as when you first arrived on mansion world number 1, except that the thought adjuster does not leave you during these transit sleeps between the mansion worlds. Your personality remains intact after you once pass from the evolutionary worlds to the initial mansion world.
Okay, now y'all don't panic when it says here that you awake on the new but undeveloped body in the resurrection halls. You're not starting over on each world, okay? What they're talking about is your undeveloped body is you got a new body for this new world, so it will customize to your personality. Okay, so as you are there for a while, it'll start looking more and more like you and taking on your own personality. So if you're ugly inside, your body's going to be ugly, right? If you're pretty inside, you'll have a beautiful body, right? All right.
Oh, I'd like to be handsome with a full head of hair.
Hey, Bill, we might get up there and everybody thinks hair is ugly.
Really?
Right.
Well, I'm progressing towards losing all my hair.
There you go. I'm making good progress towards that right now.
I thought only men lost hair, but
No, women
boy,
do
mine
too.
is falling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just tell everybody it's my brain's poking out all the hair. I'm getting smarter. So all right, let's go on to the next.
Okay,
one.
big head.
Big. Diane, would you take the next one, please?
Your adjuster memory remains fully intact as you ascend the Urantia life. Recording is paused. I must have hit something wrong, honey. Okay. Okay. Your adjuster memory remains fully intact as you ascend the Urantia life. Those mental associations that were purely animalistic and wholly material naturally perish with the physical brain. But everything in your mental life which was worthwhile and which had survival value was counterparted by the adjuster and is retained as a part of personal memory all the way through the ascendant career. You will be conscious of all your worthwhile experiences as you advance from one mansion world to another, and from one section of the universe to another, even to paradise.
Now you see why it's so important that the adjuster spiritualizes your memories, don't you?
Yes, yes.
It is very, very important that your entire life that's worthwhile and of value, that the adjuster makes a spiritual transcript of that, so that when you wake up on the mansion worlds, that's a memory that will come back to you immediately. Okay, spiritualize your life. All right, and you can see why this is important, right? It also tells you why all those purely animalistic and wholly material things perish with your physical brain, because those things are not necessary any longer on the mansion worlds, right? So all those things you think are important, like drinking, smoking, chasing people, and sex and all that stuff, well, that's going to all pass away. All right, when you get to the mansion worlds, and that will be replaced with spiritual activities and spiritual memories, right? So we all have a chance to start all over, don't we? To do it right in the mansion worlds. All right.
And it will still be about relationships.
It will still be about relationships. It will still be about love. It will still be about family. It will still be about friends. It always comes down to serving God and serving each other, right?
Wonderful.
That's what it's about.
In harmony.
In harmony. That's right. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Though you have Urantia bodies, you continue through all 7 of these worlds to eat, drink, and rest. You partake of the Urantia order of food, a kingdom of living energy unknown on the material worlds. Both food and water are fully utilized in the Urantia body, there is no residual waste. Pause to consider. Urantia number 1 is a very material sphere, presenting the early beginnings of the Urantia regime. You are still a near human and not far removed from the limited viewpoints of mortal life, but each world discloses definite progress. From sphere to sphere, you grow less material, more intellectual, and slightly more spiritual. The spiritual progress is greatest on the last 3 of these 7 progressive worlds.
So it sounds like we eat, drink, and be merry all the time, don't we? Right? Just like on this world in that point. But our bodies are different, and our human aspect goes farther away as we get closer and closer to the spiritual life. You see that? We progress slowly, and it's a natural progression, and to us it probably won't even be noticeable that much. It'll just be a natural thing. All right, let's knock out these last 2 paragraphs before we close, and we'll leave on the 5th mention world. Bill, would you take the next one?
Sure. Biological deficiencies were largely made up on the first mentioned world. These defects in planetary experiences pertaining to sex life, family association, and parental function were either corrected or were projected for future rectification among the material son families on Jerusalem.
Now, how they do that, I don't know. I really don't. That's a mystery. All right. Millie, would you take the last paragraph there, and that we'll quit on that tonight.
Mansonia number 2 more specifically provides for the removal of all phases of intellectual conflict and for the cure of all varieties of mental disharmony. The effort to master the significance of Urantia moda, begun on the first mansion world, is here more earnestly continued. The development on Mansonia number 2 compares with the intellectual status of the post-material magisterial son culture of the ideal revolutionary worlds.
Notice how as we go through these worlds, how it brings us up to the point of the normal progression of a planet to light and life. By the time we get to number 7, we've really gone through the same experience of the light and life, right? That's why this is so important. Okay, so let's quit there for the night, and we will take up the 3rd mansion world next time on Thursday. Let's say a short prayer, and then we'll quit for tonight. Dear, would you like to pray tonight? No? Okay. Well, I'll pray. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for allowing us to share this wonderful revelation with each other and share our thoughts and ideas. Pray that you'll be with us the rest of this week and keep our hearts and minds for spiritual concepts the rest of the week and into the future. And we thank you for your continued guidance in all this. We say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
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 Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you,
to
welcome.
everyone.